Welcome to Monday Night Therapy. It's John. I'm here by myself. I don't know where Todd is, which is damned unfortunate because, I mean, he has like half the information for the show. So, it's me. It's me by myself. And there's a lot going on. There was a lot happened over this weekend and over the last week in Huskerdom. And I guess I'll just start without him. And I'll start with baseball. Nebraska played at the since I don't have anybody to go back and forth with witty opening banner with, Nebraska played at the Cambria Classic at the U.S. Bank Stadium in Minnesota this weekend. And Friday they beat Vandy. Saturday they beat Hawaii. And Sunday they lost to Ole Miss 14-5. I went to the baseball game on Sunday and I had a wonderful time. I mean, it wasn't fun watching us get shelled in the first inning. You know, Caleb Clark was out there, a true freshman, I believe, and he got kind of rocked. He gave up 8 runs in the first inning, and it was unfortunate. I Here's the thing: we were down to like 2 outs, 2 strikes on a guy, and the pitch gets called high. If it's called a strike, then we're not giving up 8 runs, and the game's an incredibly different game. But we gave up 8 runs, and then we had to fight and claw our way back. We'll give Todd a few minutes to see if he actually shows up. But I got to tell you this. I got to tell you a story. I almost passed out at the baseball game. Honest to God, I'm not even making that up. I was up in the stands, and I'm 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 kind of high up in the stands because my balance still isn't the greatest, and I don't want to walk all the way down the stairs because I don't want to fall down and look like an idiot in front of everybody. I have my Cobby thing on. I did have some people come up and say they enjoyed my YouTube content, so that was very nice because my ego needs that kind of attention whore stuff. Yes, it does. And uh, but I'm watching the baseball game, but I'm still sitting there with my phone. I'm checking the Iowa score. And as the game goes on, there's no way we win this game because that's what I think about Nebraska basketball all the time. And we're ahead for some reason. And I'm like, oh my God. Now, I'm sure that you guys have all seen uh, this meme with Vince McMahon, right? Well, here's the thing about this. I'll scoot over a little bit. Here's the thing about this. This is what's happening to me as I watch the Nebraska Iowa basketball game. And I'm literally watching the score, and then I thought, okay, I'll flip over to the Fox mobile app because you can watch this stuff mobile now, which is the coolest thing ever. And I'm watching at the end of the game, and I am so used to being at home watching Nebraska sports. I think, what was it, the end of the game? When they called that charge on Iowa, and Sam Hoiberg picked up the charge, he got the charge call against Iowa. I literally it screamed in the middle of this baseball crowd. And I'm like, I'm jerking around like that Vince McMahon thing. And people are looking at me and some little kids pointing and going, Dad, what's wrong with that guy? And then, somebody's like, I think he's having a seizure. And I'm, and then of course we win, and I'm just apoplectic or whatever that word is, and I completely freaked out, and I thought, oh my God, I'm making an ass of myself, which I shouldn't be embarrassed by because I do that all the time. And then I noticed there was a whole bunch of Nebraska fans down in front of me that were screaming their heads off, and it was wonderful, wasn't it? I mean, I did that short video on YouTube, and I got some crap from Iowa fans on it. And the thing is, I mean, think about this for a moment. We were in our darkest days in football. I mean, we had a staff that was kind of a made up staff, and a team was kind of a made up team. And we don't know where we're going. We don't know what we're doing, and we still beat Iowa in football after losing to them for like 83 years, way too long. And then we come around and we beat them at home in basketball. And like, okay, Fred's beating Creighton and he's beaten Iowa, and I think that's pretty good for our basketball team. And I'm thinking there's no way we beat Iowa on the road in basketball, and then we beat them in basketball, and we sweep them. And the thing about these guys, I don't know if you've noticed the comments in the youth short. They're like, yeah, good luck with your 500 team. Hey, let's get this straight, Iowa guys. We're not good at basketball, and suddenly we have a team that beats you twice. This is exciting. I'm excited by it just because we win, and that's exciting. And right now, you look at you guys, and I think that if you compare the two of us, we're going places and you're not. But that's really what it comes down to. I know that basketball is kind of a year-to-year thing, and you looked at the Big Ten this week, and if Northwestern won, they were going to be the 2 seed. And if they lost, they were going to be the 9 seed. And it was a bloody mess. The Big Ten was just murderers row up and down, except for maybe Purdue, and even they got beat up at the end of the year. I probably should go through some of the comments, but it was nice. It's nice to beat Iowa just because, well, they're our rival, and we talked about this a little bit in our Slack room that, it's kind of a shame. One of them said, one of my guys said, it's a shame we've fallen low enough that Iowa is our rival. But I kind of look at it and I go, there really isn't, with all the movement that's going around when the realignment and stuff like that, there's not a lot of room for rivals. You know what I mean? There's no long term. Michigan, Ohio State have long term. Texas and Oklahoma don't really have long term anymore, although they might get back some old rivals. Texas will. I'm okay with Iowa being our rival. Minnesota can be our rival. Wisconsin can be everybody can be our rival. I'm kind of hoary that way. I'm okay with that. This isn't marriage, for God's sakes. Okay, so I was hoping Todd showed up so he would talk about wrestling, but we'll get to that in a bit. I need to go back to my list. So baseball, back to baseball for a minute. I paid attention to Vandy. I thought that it was nice of us to go. I hope that we do this every year, the Cambria Classic, honestly. I know that they could play in a bunch of different places, but kudos to Minnesota for getting Vandy and Ole Miss and Hawaii into that stadium, in Maryland. And I'm missing a team. But that's a pretty good mix of baseball for the upper Midwest in the middle of winter. Well, okay, at the end of winter, but it's still the middle of winter as far as I'm concerned. It's still snowing like hell out there. But Vandy, I guess I was surprised we beat them just because they're Vanderbilt, and nobody knows where we're at. Hawaii, I kind of expected to beat, although they did beat Maryland. Hawaii beat Maryland Sunday morning. I talked to some of the Hawaii fans as they were walking out of the stadium, and I was coming in. And then, we gave up that 8-run spot in the first inning and battled our way back, like I said. My impressions of the game, here's the thing that you need to know. Anymore at Coronation, there's just too much going on, and I want our coverage to be good. So I have 3 guys covering baseball, and they're very good at baseball, and I'm only cursory paying attention to it. I pay attention to it enough to talk about it, but I'm certainly not an expert on like the bullpen and who the guys are and who's going to hit. Certainly not in wrestling. That's kind of been the way across the board, except for football. But my impression of us in baseball against Ole Miss since I watched was they're much better than us. I mean, it was unfortunate we gave up the 8 runs, but I got the idea that some of our pitchers, Caleb Clark, I think, came in, and I think he was a little intimidated. Nebraska couldn't get the third out in the first inning, and they couldn't get third out in a later inning that cost him some runs. And I think some of our pitchers were just either intimidated or still fresh and learning. Garza did a good job in relief of Caleb Clark, and he I don't remember what his stats were, but Max Anderson can be counted upon. Bryce Matthews had a nice home run in left field. Given that it was 14-5, I think it sounds worse than it was. It was fun to watch him play. It was kind of weird for me because because it was the first time in a very, very long time that I actually bought a ticket to the event and didn't go in with a credential. And I walked in and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Okay, I have to go here. And then they cordoned off part of US Bank Stadium. Well, I'm used to just walking around that stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, I gotta actually go find a seat and sit down. And it was just kind of weird to be a fan instead of a guy there with a camera. And I'm okay with it. It's just different and weird. Okay. I said I'd take a look at the chat. Linda Wilkins says, "Good evening, John and Todd." Well, Todd, in absentia, looking forward to a little therapy night. Did not have a good week. Why did you not have a good week, Linda? I mean, Nebraska had a good week. I thought that affected everybody. Linda also says, "Good history video today. Thank you. I spent way too many hours on trying to render that video. It kept crashed all weekend until I finally figured it out." The video editing software I use is DaVinci Resolve, and it has a 4,000 page manual. And I'm just trying to get a little bit better every time I do a video. Justin says, "Hello, how about that Nebrasketball? It was fun." I'm going to skip over this. John, how many years does the linebacker from Florida have? Chief Borden. We'll look that up in a minute. John, turn on the comment window. Isn't it? Let's try this. It isn't showing up, is it? This does this sometimes with the we use a restream. Oh my God, Linda says, "I had a mini stroke Wednesday and spent the night in the hospital." That is not good. Linda, how's your women's bowling team knowledge? Not very good. Although I do get regular emails from the athletic department for releases. So Bob Maston says, "Too bad we didn't play well in the early season in basketball." I don't disagree with that. I mean, there's a teeny tiny chance that we could make the NCAAs, but it's teeny tiny. And I mean, if you really want to make the NCAA, we need to win the Big Ten tournament. Is that possible? Again, I mean, anything's possible with the way they've been playing this lately. I mean, who knows? But they do look like they should into the NIT, which would be a postseason tournament, and that means that basketball will have gotten into the postseason before football, which is, I don't know, something weird for Nebraska, isn't it? I don't know if we're supposed to be disappointed with that or impressed with Fred Hoiberg. Let's see what else. Corby Kobus says, "Salt export is the new economic boom for Iowa. Corn is now solely dominated by Nebraska." Good comment. Justin again says, "First time ever sweeping Iowa." And that's it. That's kind of cool. It is. All right. Ralph Dave says, "Allred, all day, Big Ten wrestling champion." It was our first wrestling champion since, I believe, 2015. I know that Penn State ended up with 4 champions because the schmuck I have to work with, who's a Penn State guy, was like, "Oh, I was sad we didn't get 6 champions." And we work remotely, so I can't like reach across the room and grab him around the neck or anything like that. Do I advocate violence? Well, only sometimes when it's necessary, like with that guy and his Penn State. Let's go back through this, since I don't have those guys here and I have to fill an hour without Todd. Our guy upset the number 1 guy in his group, and who was it? Peyton Robb got upset by a wrestler from Penn State. First loss of the year. And that was the one I think that Todd and I think it was Aaron that were talking about, that they were disappointed that Rob got beat. But Nebraska finished third in wrestling, which in this conference, behind Penn State and Iowa, is pretty amazing. And the chat still isn't showing up. I can see it. I don't think you guys can. I don't know if you guys saw the news today. This is something else that's in my list. But today, Iowa did a lawsuit settlement with the players that they were sued by because of the racism incident, I believe, with their strength and conditioning coach. And the funny thing about it is, I go back to the YouTube comments that were on that short video and that I've seen on Twitter from Iowa fans about, making fun of us and how we live in their heads. I thought about that for a minute, and I thought, I'll admit it. Iowa does kind of live in my head, just because they just can't, they don't stop doing stupid things. I'm not just talking about their football program and their basketball program. I mean, Minnesota right now in basketball is just bad. They're bad. So there's no reason for me to talk about Minnesota basketball. Football, they're kind of above average. PJ Fleck, we'll get him in the first game next year. We'll see what happens. But Iowa just continually does stupid, unbelievably stupid things. First, you have the whole nepotism thing with Brian Ferentz. And then you have the contract stipulation that says if you meet these requirements that basically the equivalent of a 10-year-old can meet, you can keep your job. And now, again, they settled the fourth lawsuit under Gary Barta, their existing athletic director. And you look at him and you go, what are you guys doing over there? Nothing changes, and you just keep doing the same shit over and over and over. But I think the biggest thing is Kirk Ferentz released a statement. Apparently, the coaches weren't told settling this lawsuit, and Kirk Ferentz's idea was that they could have beaten this lawsuit because apparently Kirk Ferentz knows more than lawyers. I realize a lot of time in lawyerdom, you settle out of court because doing otherwise will probably cost you a ton more money. But it's just I don't know. It's hard. I was hoping to get Todd in here to have you set him off with that, and there you go. Okay. What else do I have here? Ralph Davis says, has our wrestling ever been this good? Big Ten is especially tops in wrestling. They are, and I don't think so. I think we had maybe 2 years ago or a year ago, we had the chance to be really good. But then we came to the end of the year and we kind of fizzled out. But I think placing third in the Big Ten is it's pretty good. It's up there with Penn State and Iowa, and those two are just Penn State's just a juggernaut. Okay, let's get to some football. I know you guys want to talk about football. So do I. Corby Kobus says, John, can you comment on the news from Dylan's unofficial visit to USC? What are your thoughts? Do you think this will significantly impact Nebraska's chances at landing the recruit? My thought is that Dylan Raiola is going to come to Nebraska. Here's the thing with Dylan Raiola. I think, number one, I think it's amazing we're even in the top conversation. Given where we've been over the past few years as a program, and the fact that we're even in the competing and in the running for the number one recruit in the nation, I know that there's a lot of people out there that will say, well, he's just being nice to his family. I think that, how do I phrase this? I think that when you're that level recruit, everything you do and say is, you're living in a fishbowl. And I don't think you can just say things about the place where your family is actually coaching and then just turn around later and say, oh, that was all just because I was being nice to my family. You know what I mean? Am I saying that right? In other words, I think if you had a family involved in it, you wouldn't just be stringing people along. You would look at them and say, you know what? I appreciate the fact that my uncle coaches at Nebraska, but I am going to look at there's very diplomatic ways to put this. I'm going to be looking at other programs to see what my football future. In other words, if he's paying attention to Nebraska, I don't think there's anything disingenuous about that. And everything we've heard about Dylan Raiola is that he's a fairly modest person and not real flashy. So do you think this will significantly impact Nebraska's chances of landing the recruit? Well, I think USC, you got Lincoln Riley. People call him the quarterback whisperer. I guess I've also seen the comments from people on YouTube when I did a video about how he could be costing himself millions of dollars and by going to Nebraska instead of playing for Lincoln Riley, which I kind of look at and go, if he's a good quarterback and he plays well and he is the top recruit in the nation and plays like the top recruit in the nation, then I don't think he's costing himself money at all. What the hell are you doing, Todd?
I forgot. I was out eating pizza at Home Slice Pizza. I'm in Austin, Texas. The weather is wonderful. All I want to do is be outside.
And you forgot. You forgot all of your fans.
I did.
Are you drunk?
No, not
well,
yet.
What the hell? You actually did forget.
I know. I don't see comments, so I don't even know if any fans are here, John. Are you lying?
No, they are. There are people saying, "Where's Todd? How can we carry on without Todd? What is going on?"
Hey, guess who I saw today? Guess who I saw today?
Gary Barta.
Ooh, that's a pretty good guess.
Yeah.
No.
Who'd you see?
I saw the gal from Mythbusters.
Oh yeah, it's not Jamie.
I don't know her name.
Yeah.
But I saw her.
She was wonderful. Did you talk to her?
No, she was about 5 people away from me, and I didn't talk to her. I didn't talk to the other one either that I saw.
Are you going to sit down and join us, or you just coming in to go?
I'm looking for a damn chair, so hold on a minute.
Yeah. Look at this. Fred Sacco says Todd forgot all of his fan. Yeah, I said it. Fan. That's what you did, Todd. You forgot Fred, you bastard.
I did. How can I forget Fred?
Exactly. You should feel bad.
But now I got to tell you, the other person I saw today, within 10 feet of her.
Okay.
Former Olympic figure skater, Christy Yamaguchi.
Where the hell were you?
South by Southwest EDU conference, Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
83 flipping degrees today.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for entertainment value, in the last 24 hours, I've gotten to listen to my wife and my good friend Kirk shop for refrigerators.
You care to give us any point? Was this entertaining?
Well, if you're into refrigerators, but I think we're going to go with the Samsung 4-door.
Okay. All right. Good job. It's okay. Is Tammy in the background?
Oh, she's here. Kirk's here. Sammy's here.
Hey, John.
How did he forget this?
Well, wouldn't you forget if you were with me or anything else?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Well, yes, I would, Tammy. I would.
Thanks, John.
Oh, so what are we talking about, John? What have you been?
Dylan, what do you think? We're talking about
Dylan
Todd
Raiola.
and Todd and
Dylan Raiola.
We were talking about Dylan Raiola. I cursory went over baseball and wrestling.
Well,
because you weren't
is
here.
the Nebraska fan base really, really nervous about Dylan Raiola?
I don't know. Let's ask them. I know that the chat comments aren't showing up what they regularly do, but I can see them on the side. So for the people that are here in the chat, are you really nervous about Dylan Raiola? And then just give us 2 minutes on your impression of the wrestling team, since I just kind of washed over it.
Oh, I'll tell you what, a lot of the people I know, that are wrestling fans that maybe hadn't paid that close attention to Nebraska, I got emails and texts like, oh my God, where'd Nebraska come from, et cetera, et cetera. And my old high school coach out in Colorado is saying, my gosh, where'd these guys come from? I think I said last week when we were talking with Dylan, I said they'd be third place, and nothing about it surprised me. There wasn't one thing about Nebraska's performance that surprised me, because this team has been coming on all season. 5 finalists. The only team that had more was Penn State. Nebraska had more finalists than Iowa. Unfortunately, only one Nebraska guy won in the finals, and it was the one that I thought would win. I really thought Silas Allred had a chance to beat Max Dean because of the styles. Wasn't surprised at all that Peyton Robb got beat. Peyton Robb has been wrestling like a guy that's been trying to protect a number 1 ranking rather than wrestling matches to pile up points and win. Hopefully, he's kind of got that burden off of his shoulder. That's the way some people react when they get that kind of a ranking, is that they try to protect it and they get very defensive. And he's not that kind of a wrestler. Peyton Robb needs to be very, very aggressive. And so hopefully, I hope he's not ranked. He could still be seated number 1 at the NCAA tournament. I hope he's not. I hope he's seated number 2 or number 3, and I hope he wrestles like a man possessed.
Okay, baseball. Your impressions of baseball?
Oh God, I was feeling so good until Sunday.
Did you watch the Sunday game?
Yeah, I did.
What was your impression?
My impression of the Sunday game was poor decision making on behalf of the coaching staff, and particularly the pitching coach. Really?
Why do you say that?
You left a freshman kid out there to give up 6 runs in the first inning. If they haven't, if you're going to have a freshman starter this early in the season, you better have somebody on speed dial that can get warm fast. And the kid, he started off the game with a strikeout, and then then he hit the next batter, and it went downhill from there. I think he ended up giving up 6 hits, or the team, the pitching staff gave up 6 hits in the first inning. They sent 9, 10, 11 batters, 11, 12 batters to the plate. You're down 8-0 after the first inning. You just as well kiss that one goodbye. And, I guess Nebraska did show some fortitude coming back. Bryce Matthews had a nice day at the plate. But Nebraska relief pitching, some of it later on was good enough. I was impressed with Jalen Worthy. I was impressed with Will Rizzo. I was impressed with J.C. Gutierrez. Those are all freshman pitchers.
What do you think he stood him up there just to put him up against one of the best teams in the nation to see what was going on?
Well, he's been in the rotation, and he's thrown well on Sundays. The previous 2 Sundays, he had decent starts.
No, I don't mean Caleb Clark.
Oh.
I mean the other guys that came up. Gutierrez, Jalen.
Oh, I think he was just
Rizzo.
getting them some innings.
Okay.
Last week they didn't put very many pitchers out there. Not that many guys got innings. And because they were pretty efficient last week. So he's just trying. And they're going to play tomorrow and Wednesday at home against Northern Colorado. I haven't seen a forecast. Is it chilly back in Lincoln? But I don't. I'll be real curious to see who does pitch. But like I said, it's still early in the season. You want to give some guys some innings and see what they can do. Offensively, Nebraska looks good at the plate. I mean, they're getting hits. We can bitch and moan about not getting the timely hits with runners on base. I do that all the time. It's just frustrating as hell. to see as many players left out there. But,
Okay, did we cover everything I wanted to cover with you? You weren't here for my passing out at the baseball game, Pete. Thanks a lot. I'll weep later. Now we're on to football. Are you paying attention to anything? What'd you learn at South by Southwest other than you saw Christy Yamaguchi?
Heard a hell of a keynote address this morning from a war refugee. She's originally, I think she was actually born in Syria and then fled to Jordan. I think they fled Jordan as well. She's got a great story and kind of based out of Atlanta now. Started working with refugee kids, coaching soccer, and has started a school in Atlanta and another one in Ohio, and she's going to open schools up in a couple more places. And this is what I think is beautiful about it is, heavy focus is hiring lower elementary teachers to teach refugee kids the fundamentals of reading and writing, which, you put your experts, the people who are best, who have the best skills to teach kids to read and write. And then the thing that I think is just so wonderful is that at this school and in this model, music, art, those are core subjects, not electives. Every kid is taught art. Every kid learns how to play an instrument, and they all play soccer. They all play soccer.
Huh.
You don't have to speak English to play soccer.
That's true. Linda Wilkins asked me earlier about the women's bowling team, and here's the latest I have on this from yesterday. Huskers in season with third tournament title. The Nebraska bowling team, they won their Big Red Invitational final standings. They're at number 3 in the nation. They beat Arkansas State, Newman, Youngstown State, University of Wisconsin, Whitewater, Lincoln Memorial, Valparaiso, University of Central Missouri. Aren't they always good at bowling? And Quincy
Arkansas
and Upper
State
Iowa.
is always good at bowling.
Oh, that's right, they are. So there's your lady bowling update from from the press release from the athletic department. I wish we could cover every sport in Nebraska. We just don't.
It's just too hard this time of year. I mean, we don't cover track and field, which is traditionally one of Nebraska's best sports.
That is true. That is true. What the hell happened with that? Okay. I went into a little bit about we'll get to baseball, or we'll get back to football in a minute. I wanted your impression of what happened today with Iowa.
Okay. I will really try. I'm going to try really, really hard to keep politics out of this. But if I slip a little bit, I'm going to apologize up front.
Okay.
The University of Iowa, a few years back, kind of went down an untraditional path and brought in a new president that did not come from academia. He was pretty much appointed by former Governor Terry Branstad, a businessman, and it's been pretty much running the University of Iowa as a business rather than an academic institution. Gary Barta, the AD at Iowa, has been protected and insulated by the Board of Regents and various political leaders in the state of Iowa. Why? I'm not quite sure. Gary Barta has been involved in 4 lawsuits that they've settled that have dealt with allegations of racism. They didn't mention, the sexism issues where, he was sued by the field hockey coach. They don't talk about the blowback when they got rid of one of the most successful softball coaches, Gail Blevins, in the Big Ten and in the country at the time that she was forced out. He runs the athletic department pretty much like a good old boy, with absolutely no respect for female athletics. It's just a travesty. And then you had blatant racial incidents between their strength and conditioning coach, Chris Doyle, and a number of players. Doyle gets $1 million severance package, and they send him down the road. But a funny thing about it is at the same time, there were statements provided of a similar nature about Brian Ferentz when Doyle was forced out.
Right.
Interestingly enough, Brian Ferentz still has a job. The frustrating thing about this is they're going to use state funds to pay this off. And it was approved by the new Attorney General, who, interestingly enough, was just in Washington, D.C., arguing against Joe Biden's student loan buyout plan, or student loan forgiveness plan. Now, okay, I'm coming back. And she approved of this. There was the state treasurer, Rob Sand. He's the one that said he wouldn't approve using those funds unless Gary Barta was immediately removed. And there are other people that have said, well, send Kirk and Brian with him. The fact that Kirk Ferentz has come through this virtually unscathed, and the fact that Gary Barta and Kirk Ferentz have protected Brian is disgusting. It's disgraceful. It's a black eye on the state of Iowa. It's a black eye on the University of Iowa.
Okay, breathe for a moment. You know what I thought this reminds me of today? The University of Indiana and Bobby Knight.
Sure.
I mean, the difference is that Bobby Knight won everything he touched. He won so much that nobody could do anything to him. I mean, if you remember Bobby Knight, the whole throwing, you probably remember him throwing a chair. You know, players later started coming out and saying that he was physical with them at practice.
The whip with Neil Reed, for God's sakes.
Oh, my God. You know, that kind of stuff. And nobody could touch him until Miles Brand came along and, finally actually kind of did a little investigation. But you kind of look at this and go, okay, from a bizarrely just American win at any cost attitude, I can see why Indiana loved Bobby Knight. Because he won so much, he wouldn't be ignored. You know what I mean? Kirk Ferentz doesn't win that much, for God's sake. I don't get it. I really don't. And if the people wonder why we talk about Iowa, it's this fascination with why are you this screwed up? I mean, we've been bad for the past few years, but we haven't been. Well, we enabled a guy that should have been fired a year ago, but our athletic program isn't.
Wasn't it some University of Iowa account or something like that was trashing Nebraska's Black History Month uniforms or something like that, taking a pot shot at that?
Yeah, I don't get them. It's just bizarre to me.
No, it's pretty indicative of what's going on in the whole state, unfortunately.
I have to commend you at keeping your calm demeanor. Even though I have to say that my room got a little hot coming through the.
Well, okay, let's move on.
Yeah. All right, back to Dylan Raiola. Let's see. Somebody came in. Ralph Davis says, no, not worried about Dylan, but USC will hump it in the Big Ten Tier 1 program. Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan move aside. I'm going to disagree with that. Mostly because Lincoln Riley is a very good coach on the offensive side of the ball, but he still has never figured out that he needs a defense to complement his offense. And until he does that, USC's just they're going to be a good team, but they're still going to lose a lot of games they shouldn't. Let's see. Let's see. Fred Sacco says, I'm not with regards to Dylan Raiola. I gave up on this guy will save the program hype many years ago. Great to get him, but if not, we'll survive.
I'm the same as Fred on that.
I think those were the two we got. Okay. Don Dre says Gary Barta has dirt on someone.
Might be.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. I mean, I don't know why else you'd keep those guys around. I mean, 4 lawsuits. That's especially of the kind today that get you removed from your job immediately. It's just amazing. Okay, Matt Rule had a presser today, and I actually went on a show, the Voice of College Football show, right before this show. That's why I didn't bug Todd earlier, apparently, and remind him. Plus, I must have your phone number wrong because I sent you texts and they never got delivered.
Oh, I was out having fun, eating pizza with friends. I apologize.
Wow.
Yeah, John, it really wasn't about me. It was all about the pizza.
I would have made it about you, Tam.
I know, John. I miss you, John.
Okay. Well, we'll move past that. Okay. Matt Rule had a press conference. And let's see what happened here. He talked about who stood out for so far. Rule doesn't want to isolate any players. I don't know. Did you see the Rule press conference stuff?
I did. I read some of the stuff about it. I kind of honed in on the interview with Thomas Fedoni, and just how Matt Rule has basically turned everything into a competition. Put players on teams and named captains, and earning points for going to class, earning points for community service, earning points for being on time. Just on and on. And I thought a statement that was attributed to him, and I can't quote it directly, but it was something along the line of, now that he's reviewed the team and kind of analyzed everything, have the physicality, have the strength, have the speed, but it comes down to the thing I've been bitching and complaining about for the last however many years. There's no discipline. And, just those stupid mistakes that the team continues to make. And, it appears that Rule is addressing that. He's demanding accountability. He's demanding attention to details. He's demanding, having each other's back and doing it for the guy next to you and all that type of thing. So, that certainly wasn't there with Mike Riley. That certainly wasn't there with Scott Frost. With Bo, who knows from one week to the next, but it would appear that Matt Rule's placed a high priority on it, and I'm hopeful that it transfers to the field.
Well, Thomas Fedone, what'd you think?
Well,
tell us what he said.
Well, he made some kind of a comment that he felt like he was physically ready to play, and it was just the head surgeon this last year that wouldn't sign off on him. Being able to go back out on the field. And, I kind of agree with the comment you made, John, in our Slack. Maybe the head surgeon saved him from himself.
Yeah.
You love the competitive nature, you love the fire, you love the want to. But I'll take a healthy Thomas Fedone over one that isn't. Thomas Fedone wasn't going to be a difference maker on the team last year.
No, that's true. And I think he can take that as a medical red shirt and stick around another year, right?
I think he probably can.
Yeah. Casey Thompson, he said, is Casey Thompson going to be able to throw much or do much this spring? And Matt Rule said he would be limited. They will err on the side of caution. And I don't know. Somebody earlier asked me what. No, wait a minute. In the other show I was on, the guy asked me, "What do you think will happen with the quarterback competition?" And what do you? I'll ask you, Todd.
I made a
Jeff
prediction.
Sims,
I made a prediction a couple months ago. I think when the dust all clears and the team is there for fall practice, preseason practice, I think you're going to see Casey Thompson. I think you're going to see the kid from Georgia Tech, Sims, right? Did I say that right?
yeah, I think
Kid
Jeff
from
Sims.
Georgia Tech. I think you're going to see two other quarterbacks. I'm hoping you see Heinrich Harbaugh. Harburg. I hope he's there. And I'm going to guess maybe Logan Smothers will be back. I think I wouldn't be surprised at all if we don't know how it's all going to shake down. I don't have a crystal ball, but there's going to be there's going to be between Harburg, Purdy, Smothers, and Torres. Two of those guys are going to be gone. So take your pick.
You think so?
Yeah.
It makes sense. I mean, we have way too many scholarship players, and something has to. I mean, somebody has to go. Okay. I don't know. Anything else from football today?
Anything else for football today? Jets are going to get Aaron Rodgers.
Are they?
Yeah. Of course they are.
Well, you just throw that one out. You just throw that one out there. Derek Carr, I think, signed with the Saints.
Looks like Derek Carr is going to be the Saints. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't.
We're getting close enough to the start of spring practice that, I think we're going to start hearing a lot more about football. The print media guys are going to be, pestering for more stories and stuff like that. We'll see.
Linda Wilkins says if you get that Samsung refrigerator that makes round ice cubes, you might have crystal balls.
You know what? I'll pass that on to get the round ice cube feature in the Samsung refrigerator so you can have crystal balls. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. We still have 12 minutes to go, Todd. Okay. Don Dre says, I will go crazy if Nebraska has another losing season.
I might too. I hope we got the right coach. I hope we do. I feel a lot better than I did when we hired Scott Frost, but I wasn't 100% sold on Scott Frost. In fact, I'm not sure I was 50% sold on Scott Frost, but everything, Matt Rule is putting everything in place to build a strong football program at Nebraska. Hopefully he gets the players.
Well, I think a lot of this, if we have a losing season this next year, I think it'll all come down to we weren't able to make anything out of this offensive line. Because that was our weakest point. It was our weakest point last season. I mean, it's been our weakest point for a while, and just to turn that around in 1 year would be phenomenal. So,
well, for the first time in a few years, they've got some consistency with the coaching in the offensive line, and you have some consistency with at least some of the players, who will be a year older, a year wiser, a year more experienced. I still, I understand, if a guy's not very good when he's a sophomore, there's no guarantee that he's going to be very good as a senior. Well, I'd like to think that hopefully they're growing within the program and that they are going to improve and that they're going to be better.
Well, yeah, I mean, I certainly got better as I got older.
And you're still getting better. You're still improving, John.
Is that it? You know what?
That's it.
I owed Linda something. She said, how many years, the linebacker from Florida, Chief Borders, how many years does he have? And I used to have an
He's a
article.
freshman, isn't he?
I don't think so. I think he has. You know what? I did the portal transfer article. Let's look it up. I need to probably go back and
Well, he seems like quite the character. Did you catch the video with him and the pole vaulter?
Yes. Yes.
You know, and you know they mentioned him in one of the articles today from the press conference about how he's jumped in with both feet, you know, into the whole community service stuff, driving up to Omaha, speaking at elementary schools, you know, reaching out.
He has 3 years left.
Okay.
Linda. So everybody else, he has 3 years left. Okay. Coming up, what's coming up? NCAA tournament starts for wrestling when?
In 2 weeks.
Okay.
2 weeks.
So we still have time to figure out Dylan's audio issues.
Yeah, we do.
Nebraska plays in the Big Ten tournament, I believe, on Wednesday. Is that right? God dang it. I'm sorry, the dog just came in here and she's soaking wet. Sorry for the pause. Let's look at the bracket here. Nebraska will play Minnesota on Wednesday, March 8th. So that's coming up in 2 days. We didn't get a bye into the first game. And if we win that game, we will play number 6 seed Maryland, which I mentioned earlier that if Northwestern would have won their game, or they did win their game, they would be the 2 seed. And if they would have lost, they'd have fallen all the way to the 9th seed. So I don't think there's a huge difference in all of these teams, with the exception with Northwestern with excellent shooter Boo Booey, and then Purdue with Zach Edey and that, what's that kid's name, freshman lawyer that could shoot the lights out. But go ahead.
I haven't looked at the bracket. Are we on the same side of the bracket that we can beat Iowa for a third time?
No, we're not.
Oh, shoot.
Maybe they'll make the championship game and we can destroy their lives.
Fran McCaffrey would explode.
I like Fran McCaffrey because he's interesting. He's fun to watch. I'm glad he's not my coach. Just for the same reason I like watching Tom Izzo with the cry face. You know that when Tom Izzo does that thing where he starts crying to the officials. It's one of the best faces in college basketball. No, Minnesota and Nebraska at the first game's at 5:30 p.m. and the second game is 25 minutes after game 1. So Wednesday night for that. I don't know.
Baseball plays Tuesday and Wednesday. Softball.
Right.
Softball had another good weekend down south. They beat Arizona, which that's a feather in their cap. And yeah, they're rolling right now.
Now, see, you missed my start of the show. Did you remember in the Slack room Sunday when I said I almost passed out at the baseball game?
Well, yeah, I suppose there was a beautiful woman with large breasts that walked near close enough to you that's done it more than once, John.
I'm glad you just give away my secrets publicly. My God. Okay. That wasn't it. Actually, it was not it. I got so hyperventilated from watching us beat Iowa on my phone that I was in public and I forgot that I stayed at home so much that I forgot that how to watch sports in public. I thought about yelling a lot more and I didn't because I thought, you know what, I'm getting old and I need to conserve my air. Here, take this, get up here. Get up there. The dog. She doesn't cooperate. All right, we're still 5 minutes under, but I think we're kind of done. And you're in. You want to go sit on a porch or something, don't you?
Well, there's alcohol to be consumed.
I suppose so. All right, let me say goodbye to Tam.
Tam.
Bring out your dad.
What, John?
Good night, Tam.
Good night, sweetie.
Take care of him.
Yes, I have a hard time with that, though.
You know what I mean? Take care of him. Okay, I think that's going to be it for the night. Except, Todd, I apparently don't have your correct phone number, so that when I text
you have my right phone number. I just was a butthead and wasn't paying attention.
No, my text didn't get delivered.
Oh, it didn't. All right.
Yeah, either that or you blocked me. Okay, I think that's it for tonight. We made it through this, and there you go. Good night, Todd.
Good night, John.